Hello, everyone. This is Mohammed Akif with Akif CPA, and today we'll be discussing claiming travel expenses for content creators, social media personnel, bloggers, vloggers, podcasters, YouTubers. How do you claim travel expenses? I get this question a lot because when it comes to the world of social media, especially when you are creating content, it does not matter what platform you use. You tend to travel. You travel to destinations. This could be for leisure purposes, could be for business purposes. So this video will be about what you can deduct, what you cannot deduct, what you can deduct partially or mixed, and then what are the documentation required for you to maintain. This is very important because a lot of times we are not able to understand if in terms of, is this pure business? Is this pure leisure? What happens if you mix both? What happens if you tend to take one and guess to another one? So these are a lot of scenarios that a lot of content creators go through on daily basis. I mean, right? Because we are in the world of the social media, in world of the content creation, we are everywhere. So our work takes us to many different places. So becomes a big part of your expense, and then so you want to properly manage it, you want to properly maximize it and understand the rules around it in terms of the IRS, see how they're able to let you deduct. So and then so that's the reason we want to do this, because we get a lot of questions. Another thing that I do want to focus on before getting into detail is that accounting, bookkeeping, we want to make sure that you have that well handedly controlled. Because what happens is, if you don't have the accounting done properly, if you don't have the bookkeeping done properly, this could be on monthly basis, quarterly basis, you name it, you are always behind. And you are behind in terms of tax planning, in terms of deduction maximization, in terms of depreciation maximization, and then also you don't know how the tax is going to look. So there are a lot of moving parts when it comes to bookkeeping and accounting. If you have that right, that gives you the data, that gives you the snapshot in time for you to make certain decisions, for you to make sure that you pay the minimum tax liability. And how can we do that? By tax planning, right? How can we do that? By properly understanding how things work when it comes to deduction. So bookkeeping and accounting is the foundation in your financials. Is the foundation for you to get the financial data. And if you have that corrected, I can tell you, you can do wonders for yourself. It's just not about making the most money in terms of revenue. It's also about keeping the most money, right? So you're trying, when you are pushing hard to get the revenue in, you're doing half of the job, because the other half of the job is the Uncle Sam, right? They're there to take your money. They're there to take their part. So you got to make sure that you pay the minimum tax possible. So don't let them get to you. Pay the minimum tax. The only way you can do this, if you have proper accounting, proper bookkeeping, get the data to do tax planning, to maximize deductions, and then to take more money home. So without any further delay, let's get into it. I'm going to share my screen so you guys can see what I'm seeing and we can be on the same page. All right. So here we go. I mean, so claiming travel expenses for content creators. This is again, and not just one type, for everybody. And this is also in general. It doesn't have to be content creators. It could be. This could apply to many other different other professionals too. So let's get to it. All right. So again, we were talking about in terms of travel. Travel includes airline, hotels, staying, meals, incidentals. There are a lot of things. When it comes to travel. So travel just not buying a ticket to get to some place. It's also about what you're doing to get to that place. What is the reason for you to get to it, and what expenses you incur in terms of traveling. In terms of spending, and then trying to get the more business, right? So these hotel meals, there are a lot of things that go into when it comes to travel. But again, it should be for business reasons, and then that's the main purpose here, right? So I mean, let's talk about in terms of how what is the primary purpose, right? I mean, what is the primary purpose of the trip? The trip should be for business purposes. This again, the idea, the intention, and the planning should be for business purposes. And then so again, it could be anything, content creation, collaboration, conferences, you name it, events, product launches, this again, research for the future content. So I could be going to a place to do meetings, to set up meetings, to set up things before you get your team there, to do content creation. So that is also included, right? I mean, think about this. A lot of this is also included. Research, going to places. I mean, so that is very important. I mean, primary purpose is for business, but this could be including the research too. The next point is the mixed purpose travel. That means you are traveling for leisure and business purposes, right? So how do you come up with an amount in terms of what is business and what is leisure? It really comes down this, in terms of working days versus non-working days, and then there's a trick to getting the weekend included into your travel. So sometimes, let's say for example, you're going for Thursday and Friday, and you'll be back uh, on Saturday, and then you wish you could have spent Saturday and Sunday there. I mean, how could you have counted that towards a business trip? This is the trick. And I have an interesting story for this, where I can share you some tips and tricks where you can include the weekend as a business, not a leisure, as a business, with doing only one thing, right? Uh, the third one is ordinary and necessary rule. They want this to be in part of your work. I mean, so technically, if it's something that it is part of your work. It's not just happening sporadically. So again, this needs to be there, uh, and then it must be required for your work. That's the third category. All right, so let's get to the next screen. Okay, and then we'll be talking about again documentation and proof. That is one of the big ones. How do you keep the receipts, travel logs, itineraries? How is it connected to business, right? I mean, the main thing is like, how is it connected to your business? What was the whole purpose? Again, documentation is the key. This could include many different things. I mean, this day and age, like a lot of things is electronic. Everything is electronic. I don't think so. Even for my case, I haven't printed a single paper for a trip for some time now. So everything is electronic, and how do you manage that, right? So let's get to the next. All right, so let's talk about number one, types of travel expenses and their deductibility. That's what we are discussing here. If you can see, number one, airline tickets, flights, and other transportation that includes trains, buses, rental cars. This is all deductible if it's for business purposes. Traveling to attend again events, conferences. This could be research, visiting location for content. Again, research. You can use that as a business expense, right? So that doesn't mean that you're there for a long period of time. I mean, research, it is for, but again, plan, document, and make a decision. That's the key here. What is not deductible is personal flights or transportation without a business purpose. Without a business purpose. That's the key here, right? Receipts, boarding passes, travel insurance. Again, a lot of it is electronic. Everything you get, make sure you're able to keep, and then you can use that as an evidence. All right. So number two, types of travel. This we were talking about. Number two is hotel stays and Airbnb lodging. I mean, technically, in legal in our world, we would call it lodging. I mean, nowadays is hotel stays and Airbnbs, but lodging are deductible if you are staying at a place for business purposes, attending meeting events. This is all included. Again, lodging is included when you travel, just not the flights. What is not deductible is if you stay longer for personal leisure versus only business use. Only business use is deductible. So if you stay 5 nights, only 2 were for business, you'd only deduct two out of 5. That's 40% of your lodging cost. I mean, again, documentation. The trick: how can you make the weekend deductible? Right? That's the trick here. And then it is all doable. So number three, meals. Make sure you understand, not entertainment. Meals only. Meals only, not entertainment. Meals are deductible for business purposes, 50%. And then so this is all deductible. Lunch, breakfast, dinner. These are all deductible when it comes to travel expenses. What is not deductible is again leisure meals or recreational activities that are no business purposes. So how do you know if it's no business purpose? Business purposes. I mean, one way is that it's not documented. So if, for example, I mean, even if you're trying to do it, I mean, it was for business, and you can say it was for business, say, but not show, right? Show is what documentation means, right? So how do you document this and they say this is for business purpose, right? So who was there? What time was it? What did you talk about? How long was the meeting for, right? I mean, these are all the things that is included in the documentation, and then that's how you prove the business purposes. So, I mean, you can, you have to create this documentation now, right? Not when the IRS audits you. Right? So you should create it now, and then by the time if something happens and there you are in an audit, it's much easier. You give it to them and then it's done. Because going back and trying to create, trying to remember stuff, you don't even remember what's gonna happen. What happened 1 month ago. So how are you gonna remember something that happened maybe 2 years ago or 1 year ago or 6 months ago? So this is something that is very important documentation. Who was there? What did you talk about? How long were you meeting? What were the points? Everything should be documentation. Uh, Again, business purposes, photos, you take pictures. This is all there. All right. Tourism and content creation. So, if you were going there for travel vlogs, again, this is same thing. In terms of your purpose was for travel, not for leisure. So entry fee, that you're paying to get in to film, any place where you're buying tickets to get into, these are all deductible. Everything is deductible here. Again, partial, not deductible documentation on posts, videos, demonstration tickets. You gotta keep them. All right. So number the mixed purpose allocation of expenses. That means that you were traveling for leisure and business purposes, and that's what it means. Like partly personal, partly business. That's what it means. And then so how do you do that? Of course, it is divided into a number of days. That's how you will look at it. If you didn't have any business, that will be considered a leisure day. If you had a business, that will be that will be considered a full business day. And then everything is divided accordingly. If you were there for 5 days, three were for business, everything will be 3 to 5. And then that's how things will be deducted. But in this case, make sure you are documenting what was the meeting, how was the meeting done, where was the meeting, who was presented at the meeting, what was discussed at the meeting. These are all the points that you need to make sure you have uh, on hand. So this is a comparison. I mean, this is just a summary and a comparison of what will qualify for what we are discussing. So airfare, business-related trips, conferences, collaborations. Keep, what kind of documentation you need. Keep tickets, receipts, itineraries. That's number one. Lodging, again, staying for content creation, events or meetings. Document business to business use. Days with the travel logs, receipts, meals, say receipts. This is also the key here. A lot of people spend a lot of money on meals, but not everything is business related, right? So how do you make sure you get it through business? You have to write down back the receipt at the minimum. Who was there? What was the reason of the meal? How much did you spend? What did you discuss? This is all part of travel expenses. Again, tickets, what kind, and if you bought tickets to get in, that's also deductible if you went for business purposes. Uh, all right. I mean, so this was the summary of some of the things that when you travel, you can deduct. Again, the key point here is that you plan ahead, you document, everything, and then we should be able to deduct those. If there is no documentation and everything is just word of mouth, it will be hard to prove when it comes time to audit. So make sure that everything is documented, make sure that everything is listed, and then a lot of meetings are planned ahead. I mean, so I was giving, I know we talked about there's a tip in terms of how to get the weekend. as a business. And the way you do this is you set up meetings, you set up conferences. Uh, let's say, for example, you're going for Thursday, Friday, right? And or you're going from Wednesday to Thursday and you're coming back on Friday. How do you get the weekend in where you can stay there, spend some time, and then come back on Monday or Tuesday? The way to do this is that you schedule your conferences or meetings all on the weekdays prior to the weekend, and then you schedule a meeting on Monday following the weekend, right? But you have to do it beforehand. You cannot do this once you get there. So all the meetings should be scheduled prior to you traveling there. Make sure that you understand this. All these meetings should be scheduled prior to you traveling there, and you can have that weekend to be considered as a business weekend because you have to stay there in order for you to conduct the Monday meeting. All right. So this is one of the tips. I mean, I have it in my one of my books too. You can go online on Amazon or our website too. You can look, and this is one of the tips from that book where you can deduct the weekend as a business expense rather than a leisure expense. If you travel, if you plan ahead, and then plan your meetings accordingly. All right. Well, any questions, shoot in an email, info@keepcpa.com. Again, info@keepcpa.com, and we'll be able to help you. Thank you.